The next 3 years we'll work hard in the third term of the National Government. Thank you.
Yes, just before I call Tracy Martin, this is to be a split call, and New Zealand First can determine what proportion of the call goes each way. Tracy Martin.
Excuse me, Mr. Speaker. Are you able to ring the bell at 5 minutes, Mr. Speaker?
If that's what you'd like, 5 minutes or 4 minutes?
4 minutes with a minute
to go.
Thank you.
Will do.
Kia ora. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, New Zealand First believes that education is a critical social and economic investment. And if you listened to the spin put out by the national government, you could be forgiven for believing that they actually thought the same thing. But just before I get into addressing just a few, because I only have 5 minutes to address these things, a few of the areas of concern that this seemingly innocuous, but quite frankly dangerously sly budget has within it, I want to send out a message of support to the Right Honourable Dr. Lockwood Smith. I can only imagine the distress that Dr. Smith is feeling right now as he watches his own party apply a wraparound death grip to the teaching of technologies in New Zealand schools. Some of you will not know what this document is. This is the New Zealand curriculum. It is supported by this document, which is the teaching of te reo inside mainstream English medium schools. Now, Dr. Smith was a very hands-on Minister of Education back in the 1990s, and it was in 1993 that he demanded that the technologies be included as a compulsory learning area in our curriculum. This document was reviewed with wide consultation in 2006. It was scheduled for full implementation in February 2010. Part of the consultation, particularly around the technologies inside this document, was with the Royal Society of New Zealand and the Institute of Professional Engineers. This, sir, is a highly regarded, both nationally and internationally recognised document. Other countries come to study this document. But since 2008 and the re-election of a national government, this document and our schools have been under attack. First, we had national standards, a flawed system of markers given precedence over this curriculum by a minister on every level who refused to consult, communicate or interact with those in the front line of educational delivery. From the last two budgets, $14.75 million has been spent on the marketing and spinning of national standards to the New Zealand public in an attempt to convince the New Zealand public that this government actually cares about their children and their children's education. In this budget, the 2012 budget, there is a further $13.9 million, taking the spend on national standards to over $28 million by the end of the 2014 financial year. Here we have a government and a minister that talk the talk but haven't got the faintest idea how to walk the walk. This minister says on the one hand they're going to invest in 21st century learning environments, and then on the next breath argues for 1970s class sizes. Here we have a minister who talks about the 1 in 5, speaks about our most vulnerable, and then allows her ministry to spend over $28 million on paperwork that never needed to be done. Not a single dollar of that $28 million will touch a child. And yet the same amount of money could have provided close to 9,000 identified 6-year-olds with reading recovery. Or the same amount could have provided 1,690,000 teacher aid hours in the classroom, supporting those children. But let's just skip now to this increase of $511 million apparently inside this budget. How much of that money is going to be spent on designing a league tables website? How much of that money is going to be paid to Catherine Isaacs and her team while they work on an internationally suspect charter schools program for New Zealand? How much of that $511 million will never touch a single decile 1, 2 or 3 child in this country? Because we don't know yet. Because the Minister actually doesn't even know. The Minister doesn't know. She doesn't understand the teacher ratios. She hasn't received good advice. Our rural schools are dying because of this budget. Yet this government will say, much like they did in the 1990s, a little pain now for some more gain later. Wait, New Zealand, trust us. We know what we're doing. You don't. And that was obvious from today's question time. The Minister has no idea. The Prime Minister has no idea how teacher and student ratios work. But even if she did, why do they not apply to Māori medium schools? Why are Māori medium schools keeping the ratios across the board, and yet mainstream English-speaking schools, English medium schools, are being affected in this way? What about all the Māori and Pacifica students that are inside our mainstream schools now? Are they just going to have their technology set aside, the very people that the Minister said she's overly concerned about? The Minister needs to gain further advice. She needs to send her Secretary of Education out into the New Zealand schools, out into the rural schools, not just the brand new flashy ones where they can cut a ribbon. Go and talk to the staff so that the Minister and her Secretary of Education can actually find out what the Treasury's suggested cuts will do for those students. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Athanati Lolly Taylor.
Tala falava malor soifua malange ma, Mr. Speaker. Paftai malava Noah, thank you.